Deja vu? It may seem like it since we've made the same announcement 3 times in the last 3 months, with this being number 4, but we are lowering our prices again. First, our 30-day all access went from $349 to $299. Next, the 7-day all access pass went from $119 to just $99. And just a few weeks ago, despite our popular 3-day all access pass, it went down to $59 from $69. Next up is the 90-day all access pass, which is now officially dropped down to $749 from being $849, giving you 90 days of selections from your favorite handicapper for under $6 per week. Remember, purchased wager bucks can now be used the same as cash, including on our new lowered price, 3, 7, 30, and 90-day all access packages, allowing you to save every day on every pick you buy.
What's up, guys? Nick Borrman here of WagerTalk.com, back with another episode of Tea Time from Vegas. This week, covering the Genesis Invitational. As always, I have with me Andy Lang, also of WagerTalk.com, to talk everything you need to know about this week's tournament. Andy, how are you, my friends? How did we make out last week?
Last week was okay. Didn't break the bank. Didn't have a disastrous week. I felt like the bets that I lost, they were really close. Felt the handicapping was there. We'll talk about the big juice props. They keep winning. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But as always, the viewing was great. It's just an amazing tournament to watch. Sam Ryder is obviously the big winner from last week. It's not Scotty Scheffler, unfortunately, for him. But great to see Scheffler get his first win. It was kind of been a long time coming. He's going to be around for a long time. Exciting to watch that. And this is a course. This is a tournament this week that has some similarities. Hard, firm. You're going to see a lot of roll. The greens are going to be a little bit fast. So I do think there's some things that we can take away from last week into our handicapping this week.
Absolutely. And this is, we'll get into this in a second, but this is the biggest prize pool so far of the year. So, yeah, you know the big names are here. Before we get going for today, for the viewers, as always, I want to start off the show with a promo code for you guys. This week, the promo code is Genesis20, and for those of you that are like me and had to try to spell Genesis 8 times, I didn't know where the I's and the E's went, that would be GENESIS 20. It's going to take $20 off this week's tournament pack for Andy or myself, both priced at $39. You can get this week's pack for just $19, so that's 4 days coverage for $19, and it'll include any ads that we have during the week as well, whether that's a matchup or an outright as the week goes on. So head over either our pages at WagerTalk.com to check that out. All right, first segment, as always, we like to talk about the glory and the not so glory, the shambles from last week with our best bets, worst best bets segment. Andy, I always like to go with you first. What was your best and what was your ugliest from last week?
Patrick Cantlay was minus 140 to finish in the top 20. I mean, this guy's just, he's a top 10 machine. So to get him at minus 140 to finish inside the top 20 was great. There was, I saw a couple people were worried, some writers, well, he's never played here before. And it's like, guys, he's one of the best in the world. He'll figure it out. And sure enough, the putting was great. So that was an easy cash. Made it all the way to the end there with a chance to win. Worst bet, I'm going to go with Bubba Watson over Brooks Koepka. Listen, Bubba played great. He finished about where I thought he was, 14th. So I feel like that part was right. But in hindsight, Brooks, defending champ, I took too much consideration into how he's been recently. His putting's been awful, and he figured it out. He dominated the par 5, so just kind of got to tip your cap. I don't think it was a horrible bet, as Bubba did good, but Brooks was better, and should have looked at course history just a little bit more in that one.
Listen, I am a panelist, of course, in the show, but I'm also a viewer of the show. And for, I think, third straight week now, I stole another one of Andy's bets. I was also on the Patrick Cantlay top 20 play. Great find. Love it again this week, by the way. But listen, when the information's good and the bets, are sound, I don't care where it comes from. I'm going to play it. And Andy, I got to give you props on that Patrick Cantlay again. That was as easy as it could be for all 4 days. So thank you, my friend, and hopefully I'll return the favor one day. My best bets or best bet from last week was Fitzy top English player. There was only 3 people that he was playing against, Luke Donald and now I'm drawing a blank on who the other one was. Both missed the cut. That's all I know. So the play was over after Friday. It was the easiest cash of the week. So I was happy with that one. My worst bet, let's just say all of my outrights. I took 4 of them. 3 of them missed the cut. The only one that made it, Russell Henley, he did finish tied for 33rd, but he was never a contention. So it was not a good week on the outright market. Did have a couple of top 20 plays. Cantley was one of them. Rahm actually took also as in honor of your juicy plays. He was minus 200. So, that's the only place he finishes. So a couple good ones, but outright's not so good this week. But that's okay. You only need one every month or every couple months to make those profitable. So we'll try to get back on track this week. I want to look again at the tournament winners so far of 2022 as the streak has continued. This is now 6 of 6 events so far this year that has the winner coming from the top 10 in either top 10 strokes gained tee to green or approach. Most of them are coming right from the tee to green segment. The one, Hudson Swafford, was outside of the top 10 tee to green, but he was number 2 in approach. So listen, I mean, until this fails, that's where I'm going to look every week to start. And again, if we look at the graphic from last week, the top 10, let's see where we find the results. We got 5 guys in the top 10 in this graphic. Of course, we have both players in the playoff. You got Scotty Scheffler and Patrick Cantley. Then, of course, you got JT, Rahm, and Hideki. So this thing's working. And, and like I said, until it's proven otherwise, I'm going to start here. I'm going to always look at it every week as I check, choose those outright plays. It's also a good place for matchups, trying to find guys. A lot of the times, though, the books are smart enough to pair some of these names up against each other. But when they're both right here, you got guys like JT, who was up against Rahm last week at plus 150. And, yeah, he won by a shot. But, I mean, it's like you got them that close together. It's hard not to take a big plus price like that. So this week, we'll look quickly at the top 10 strokes gained tee to green over the last 6 months at the Genesis Invitational. We have JT leading the way, plus 2 strokes, just over 2 strokes gained per round. Pretty damn impressive there. Followed by Sung Jae, who's actually ahead of Rahm, and then Cantley. So pretty much names you'd expect there. Luke List, who's been on this board several times, and he did pull through with the win a few weeks ago, so no surprise. His odds, though, 80-1 compared to anybody else on this board is pretty damn impressive, or pretty juicy, that you could say. Then you got Willie Z, Xander, Cam Smith, Rory, and again Henley rounding out the top. So as always, it's a good place to start when you're getting in your outrights. We'll get into that in a little bit. Andy, let's talk a little bit about the tournament itself and the field this week. We'll start with you. What should the listeners know?
Well, it's a tough test. It tends to favor the longer hitters. You're not going to have really, really deep rough, but you are going to have trees. So if you have wayward drives, you're kind of taking your fate. You're depending on having a good look from the rough. If you get blocked by trees, it's going to be a chip out, or you're going to have to get something tricky with it. They have not had a lot of rain, and these greens are hard. Top 5 hardest approaches proximity to the hole. So if you're not, even if you're hitting fairways, these holes are tough to approach. It's top 12 hardest to hit fairways. You've got some dog legs, and they're real sneaky on some of those dog legs. They're where the dog leg hits is like 300 yards out there, and the fairway is only 26 yards wide. So you're looking at pretty fast conditions. This is not typically a course where a bad putter just comes alive out of nowhere and wins. I would be looking at people that are putting good. So not Tony Finau. And the approach stat that we go over, every week, Nick, is interesting, because when you've got greens that grab, those guys who are dialed in on their irons, they can just light up and pepper the greens. This is a lot harder. Even if you make a really good approach and it lands close to the hole, it can easily run off. So, whoever is dialed in with the driver, I think is going to have a big advantage. The par 5s, you have to score on the par 5s this week. And shorter players, I want no part of this week.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that Riviera is going to be the highest winning score of any event so far in 2022. Easily the toughest track that the Tour has played for all 4 days so far this year. I say that with an asterisk, as Torrey Pines South is arguably as difficult, if not more. but they got the benefit of playing the North one day, so the scores are a little bit lower. But here, last year's winning score, minus 12 from Max Homa, and then fourth place had already fallen below double digits at just 9 under. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of low scores this week. It's going to be a lot tougher, as you mentioned. Last year, you already said the score last year. So they played 51 courses on tour last season. Riviera ranked inside the 5 toughest in all these categories: fairways hit, greens in regulation, average proximity, as you mentioned, and then a couple different putting stats. So it's hard all the way around. It's a classic design. It's all about accuracy. You got to get the ball in the right spot. So yeah, you have to hit the ball off the tee to the right spots. If you're missing, it isn't long roughly, as you mentioned, but you're going to have bad angles to the greens and where these pins are, and you're not going to be able to, even find the greens. And if you do, it's tough making par. So definitely going to be a course that, you're right, value off the tee is going to be a paramount this week. I also mentioned field, easily the strongest this year. All of the top 11 are in the field, and they're playing for the biggest prize pool of the year, $12 million in the prize pool, over $2 million going to the winner of this thing. So there's a big reason we're seeing a lot of big names this week. So let's get into our bets for the week. As always, I like to start with the outright market, and I look at that strokes gain data as always. And this one is not much of a surprise. It's not that sexy, but Cantley's going to win. I mean, this week, next week, one of these weeks. I mean, he's been in contention every freaking tournament so far. He's not the favorite, so I'll at least say we didn't go with the favorite on Rahm this week. But, I mean, listen, his results are undeniable. And, I figured he was going to get that win last week. He blew a couple good chances on the last few holes that he should have probably made at least one of those putts and won this thing before he went to the playoff, which he ultimately lost. However, finishes of second, tied for fourth, tied for ninth, and tied for fourth so far this year. Pretty impressive. We know he's a great ball striker, which is going to be important this week at Riviera. He ranks fourth in strokes gained tee to green over the last 6 months, and he's number 1 overall by a wide margin, averaging over 3 strokes gained per round. That's adding in putting, which Cantley is very, very good at as well. So next closest is JT at plus 2.3, so almost over half a stroke behind. So pretty impressive there. And he has finished inside the top 20 in each of the last 4 years playing here at Riviera. So Cantley, not a great number, 12-1 to win outright, but I'll let Andy stop. I'll stop there because I know Andy's going to mention another way to play Cantley a little bit later. So that's one of my outright plays. Andy, I know you have a matchup for the viewers. What you got?
Well, I touched on briefly. Let's go with Taylor Gooch over Tony Finau, and this is just a continuation of fading Finau. It's just a disaster year for him right now. Missed the cut last week, and he's losing his head-to-heads. We cashed a full tourney barely and an individual round. Missed the cut last 2 PGA Tour events he's played at, and he finished 28th at the Saudi International, which is a bad finish. And it's just about putting. Yep. His greens and regulation is fine. His tee to green is fine. But he's 208th in putting and 132nd around the green. That is a recipe for disaster this week. If you're 132nd around the green and 208th in putting at Riviera, yikes. I don't know what happened to his putting, and I know with these guys it can come and go, but Tony Finau has kind of had this reputation of falling apart in the 4th round in big spots. But this year he's just getting off to terrible starts, and he's digging himself these big holes, and you just can't do that, especially this week when you got the loaded field. Taylor Gooch has finished inside the top 28 in 4 out of 5 tournaments this year. He's finished 12th and 10th here the last 2 years, so he likes this place. He's above par in all main categories in stroke gain. He's plus 0.7 in approaching and plus 1.2 tee to green. Much, much better form, and he likes playing here. I love him this week. And I think we're getting pretty good value on here because Finau had a good finish last year here, but this isn't the same Tony Finau. He's fade material for me, and I'll do it with Taylor Gooch.
I like it. Finau's got 1 top 20 this year, which came at the Century Tournament Champions when there was, 37 people in the field. So not that impressive. And I'll at least say this. At least the books are finally giving him the disrespect, I can say, that he deserves. He's listed at 50-1. I mean, he's been still hovering in the 20-some-odd range to win. So finally they've dropped him down to where he belongs in that 50-1 range. So I do like that fade, Andy. Definitely a good play there. My next play I'll give out for another outright. I know Andy is actually not a fan of this one, and that is Willie Z. I think the big reason Andy does not like it, which it is a little bit of a concern, is he's coming off a bout of COVID, keeping him out of a field since Torrey Pines. So I'm hoping it doesn't thwart his momentum, but he was playing really strong coming in. He lost the playoff at Torrey Pines, of course, and he finished tied for 6th the week prior at the American Express, and those are just his only 2 starts so far in 2022. He happens to rank first on tour this season, so that goes back to the fall, in both strokes gained approach and strokes gained tee to green, while also ranking 6th in greens and regulation. Of course, an important metric this week, considering this is one of the hardest courses on tour to hit. Going back a little further to a full 6 months, he ranks 6th in strokes gained tee to green, all important top 10 metric. So I like Zalatoris this week. He also finished tied for 15th at Riviera last year, so it's not his first time around this course. 28-1 price on him. Andy, if you're betting against him this week, I will say I'm rooting against you on that one, buddy. Your next play. If you have what do you have for us again? You have another matchup on the next play?
I'm not betting against Will Zalatoris. I just want to see a week of how he looks. I want to make sure that he didn't have symptoms. I tried to find it. I tried to find articles or social media, but yeah, and I haven't found it. So I just want to be patient with Zalatoris. Obviously, the talent is there. I'm just going to be patient on him. All right, my next play is going to be another head-to-head matchup. I love Adam Hadwin this week over Harold Varner. I love fading. I call them random winners, and Varner wins the Saudi. That's to me is a random winner because he just played way above average, blew his metrics out of the water, and I love fading guys the next week. Unfortunately, the books caught on and they matched him up against Hoagie, who's coming off of a win. I thought Hoagie was in better form, but I was patient, and I should have stuck with my gut and gone with Hoagie. Varner was terrible, missed the cut. Sure, he's celebrating. That was a huge win in a huge week. I was actually surprised he played in the Waste Management. And it was a big letdown spot, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to fade him with Adam Hadwin. Hadwin has never missed the cut here, ever, in 7 straight years. And he's finished top 26 in 3 out of 4 tournaments. Varner has finished 60th or worse in 4 out of 5 years here. So I'll definitely take Adam Hadwin over Harold Varner.
I like it. Varner was definitely a random winner. I feel like, I've bet him on outright a few times in my life. Of course, nothing's ever come through. The only success I've ever had with Varner. Yeah, not well. But I have had success with him as the first round leader play. That's the one thing that he tends to be. He just shows up on Thursday, and then, that's pretty much it. So I'll just throw that out there. If you're interested in Varner anyway, maybe dabble on him in the first round leader market. But besides that, I wouldn't touch him. Definitely a good fade for you this week. My next play I like is, you already mentioned his name earlier, is young Bubba Watson. Well, maybe not so young anymore, but Bubba, listen, he was a sexy pick last week, as he will likely be another one this week, considering his course history at each of these last 2 events. I probably wouldn't even looked at him, or he may have been overlooked by everybody in general, but he kind of jumped back up on everybody's radar after finishing runner-up at that Saudi International to Varner. He then backed up the hype, as you mentioned last week, Andy, finishing tied for 14th at Scottsdale. At Riviera, it's hard to find anybody that's been better. He hasn't been exactly consistent here year in and year out, though. He has 5 missed cuts. He has 2 withdraws in 15 starts, so that's just under half. But when he makes the cut, you can bet on him being in contention. In 8 tournaments that he did make the cut, he finished inside the top 20 in every one of them, and he won 3 times, 2014, 2016, and 2018. So obviously he loves this place. Again, if he makes it to Saturday, we should be able to cash a top 20 ticket on him. He's right now 4-1 as a top 10, and you're getting about plus 180, 185, somewhere in that neighborhood on a top 20. So I'm not going to take him to win, but I do think he has a decent chance to be on that first or second page of the leaderboard. We're getting a decent return on him. So Bubba Watson on the leaderboard bets is one play I like this week. Andy, last one from you. I think you're probably looking at another leaderboard bet here as well.
Yeah, I want to this is kind of my update here for just calling him the juice props. So it's Patrick Cantlay, top 20 again. I think we're still getting a good price. You went over all the stats. on him. Right now, you can get him minus 145 on Bet Online. That's dead heat rule. So if he ties 20th, it's, you get a cut of it. So you could lose money. I don't care. I'm still playing him. This guy's not a top 20 machine. He's a top 10 machine. So I'm going to keep going back to it. And my juice props are now 6-0. They're undefeated. Just a couple weeks ago, I said I was dabbling in some of these, and it's just been a really, really big winning method. But I do have to throw out there, when I play these, I research them very, very hard. I had several people reach out to me, and I'm not saying to play all the juicy plays. Some people reached out and they were like, well, I laid minus 170 on Rahm over Cantlay because, Rahm's number one in the world. I was like, well, that's not a play that I would recommend. So I'm not
Right.
recommending doing this. I'm not recommending doing this all the time. All of my juice props will be in the package. There's going to be 2 or 3 that are going to be in there, but tread carefully on there. Just, understand, I researched this stuff for hours and hours. I'm not recommending for you to go out there and, like, for example, this week, John Rahm's minus 157 against Justin Thomas. That's not a play. There's no value in that. You're not getting a value. But when you have minus 145 on Cantlay at top 20, who's just, tearing it up, and he has great course history here, yeah, that's going to be a play for me. So those plays have been better than the head-to-head matchups to start off the year. Now, I will say I haven't done great at the multi-course tournaments. We seem to be out of those. So my head-to-heads were better last week. I expect that to do good. But Bet Online is offering these top 5s, top 10s, top 20s, and we're not doing this. And I think it's a direct result of the domestic books having lots of options. And so now you're getting the line shop. And I will also say the book Bet Rivers. If you have legalized gambling in your state, get Bet Rivers. I have 2 plays in my golf pack this week that come directly off of Bet Rivers. They are a hidden gem in the golf betting world. They offer some different matchups and some different props. So I love them. I've never had any problem with depositing or pulling money out. Highly recommend. And if you're betting golf every week, that's a book you should have.
Yeah, listen, I've been following along on those high juice plays too. I actually had a couple myself last week. Rahm top 20, he was minus 200, and Fitzy, that easy top Englishman catch, was also minus 200. So I've been kind of dabbling in there as well, and so far, same results as you. I haven't lost any, and they've been rather stress-free, I guess you can say. But again, yes, tread carefully with those. We'll continue to plug along and see how we do and make adjustments as we go, I imagine. Right, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Can we plug the article? We worked so hard on
article.
Of
course. So listen, if you want more golf information, you need to check out the WagerTalk news page. Andy and myself collaborate on a article, of course, covering whatever the tournament is for that week, and we go into depth on the field, the course, who we like, who we don't like, out plays, matchups, outrights. Andy was high on some guy named Thigala last week. I think he was in the mix. I'm not really sure, but yeah, great information. I think you mentioned him big time in a great value play for daily fantasy. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did it last week, and I'm going to now do this every week, and I think we'll touch on it maybe starting next week. Just some of my favorite DraftKings plays. I call it DraftKings darlings. Like, it doesn't take a genius to say Rahm would be a good play, but these are all guys that are 7,500 or less, because that's where you make the money at on daily fantasy. If you can nail these, I mean, if you put Thigala in your lineup at 6,700, you're cashing, and you're cashing pretty big if you get everyone through the cut. So that's including the article, and that's free on the WagerTalk news page. So we work really hard on it. Nick puts a lot of time into it, and it's free. It's just up there with everything you need to know to make money off the tournament.
Absolutely. And if you're watching this live, it is already loaded on the WagerTalk news page as well. So make sure to head over there to check it out. And again, it'll be up there every single week from both Andy and myself. Happy to put in the time and effort so we can make everybody a little money betting in golf, because it is a fun sport to bet. As we look forward, next week we have the Honda Classic. This is the last event of the West Coast swing before we go to the Florida swing. And the Florida swing is pretty awesome. I mean, you got the Honda Classic isn't the strongest event, but it's still a great golf course. But then you got Bay Hill, you got the Players, and then you got the match play to round out the month. So it's an awesome month of golf. Looking forward to that for sure. And hopefully we can continue to provide some good information along the way. So on behalf of Andy and myself, at WagerTalk.com. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. One last time, I want to mention the promo code we have this week is Genesis20. Take $20 off this week's tournament pack for either Andy or myself. Normally priced at $39, get it for just $19. Get all 4 days of coverage included with that. And hopefully we can continue to provide more winners. So, as always, guys, thank you. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck with your bets.